Welcome back to my channel on my building of an expedition camper. I'm going to summarize a little bit here from my last video as to why I'm cutting out these big holes and then get into it.
I wanted a pretty sizable gear garage, big enough to hold many bikes, skis, paddleboards, kayaks, things like that. And that means in order to get in and out of that, you need a really big door. So now I'm going to move forward to cutting these two big garage door openings. That's a big one. Okay, so this cut here that I'm going to cut for the garage door, which is this big opening down here, bottom of the bed platform and the back of the bed wall, because this extrusion is going to encapsulate that. And so this is really scary because I've got to cut this opening here, but my extrusion is literally going to it's going to go right up to that level and then encapsulate over here to hold also the bed platform and the bed wall, lock those in. So they're structurally completely together and strong. So I also down here, I need to cut this opening basically to mirror match the departure wall, the rear wall here, and this departure angle, the squared out departure angle, match that so I get the max amount of garage opening. And so that means that this extrusion needs to go up as far against this as it possibly can. Which means that what I'm doing, and as I'm really measuring this and really getting this all down to a millimeter, I actually got my micrometer out. I'm going to measure this depth to make sure I'm getting this as precise as I possibly can. So I'm going to call it 3.9 inches. That's close enough. That's what's going to be my setback thing I have to cut from these interior extrusions here to accommodate this extrusion that's going to go on the outside and then wrap to the inside of my garage door. Whew. This is tough. This is tough geometry here. So I almost made a really big mistake, but fortunately I caught it before I cut. This is why I go through and check everything multiple times. So anyways, I've come to the realization now I have to cut these green lines, which is good. I cut my hole here. I can do a nice rounded corner. I'll have this minor corner here between the two on the outside. The inside will not be overlapped as the same. It'll be overlapped or enveloped within the bed platform and bed wall. So that's going to give me a nice, fully airtight, watertight, and insulated bond. I'm not going to have any gaps in my insulation. So that's what I'm thinking through. I want to make sure I don't have any gaps in insulation. Everything's sealed up. All my corners are nice and tight and sealed because that's pretty key. I don't want to rely on just a layer of sealant to make sure that I've got a good seal. I want to make sure everything's overlapped in ways where it's going to be fully sealed. So get everything laid out perfectly before I do my drilled corners all the way through, which when I do that, it'll tell me where my corner is on the outside, because then when I do my cuts, I'm only going to cut about halfway through this wall, so I don't make a mess spewing out the foam and the fiberglass on the other side where I can't collect it with the dust collector or with a vacuum, because I'm really going to focus on doing it on the inside here as I'm cutting, and then go the outside and cut. Obviously those two cuts now are going to marry up together in parallel on the inside of this wall. It's very difficult to do, especially with the handsaw and everything, but that's how I've been doing it so far. It's been working pretty well. I've got a pretty good process down. Putting a hole in the corner, make sure the hole is absolutely perpendicular to this wall through there is really the key. It's really hard to do that hand holding a drill through. You think you get it perpendicular, but it's not. And then the two different cuts as they marry up from one wall to the other, inside, outside, don't perfectly align. So that's how I get that done. And this corner cut here is really critical for not only all these dimensions, but also for structural strength. Also how it's going to seal up and overlap. Also I need to have it rounded so that I don't have any propagation of stress that could cause some fracturing, even though it'll be enveloped within this structural extrusion here. I still want to make sure I don't have any ability for it to do that. So I'm propagating the stress and spreading it out over a big rounded corner. But at the same time, the big rounded corner opens up this wall here to some potential leakage of air or water. So I've got to really manage that. And there's some ways I can trim out the inside of these extrusions just at the top here to accommodate a curved corner, a curved wall there. So it's really going to be either 4 or 2.5. That's the way to mention 4 inches or 2.5 in. But I got to figure out what I want to do here in the back corner. Make this all come together really tightly, structurally strong, sealed, and still get my garage as big as openings as possible, an extra 1.5 inch in width. And well, width is pretty big. It's a lot more reach in space. Oh man, this is going to be a complex little corner here. I sure like to make it hard on myself, don't I? Man, this is where a CNC machine would be really, really, really rad. Okay. It's the big scary drill holes in the corners to mark them corners. And that sets the cut, the position of the cuts. Whew, I'm gonna check this out once again. My piece of extruded fiberglass here, think through this once again just to make sure. Drill, 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 drill. 4 drills. Cut, 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 cut. Sure hope this works out. Okay, let's try to do it. All right, this is a big moment. I built this nice, big, beautiful camper, and now I got to put some more holes in it. In this case, 2 really big holes. And it's scary because I got to get these just right. The bed platform and bed wall have to be exactly where these are. And so everything's perfectly aligned. And so I got to drill my first holes to mark my corners that I have here outlined. I've measured, I've checked twice, 3 times, 4 times. I hope it's all in the right place. Take a deep breath because it's always scary cutting this big section out of the wall here and hope that it's all perfectly aligned with the bed wall, bed platform. So I've got my alignment tool to make sure I have a hole going straight through that's perpendicular to the wall, because I'm going to use that as my gauge marking point from the outside to set my cuts, because I'm going to cut basically halfway through the wall for all these cuts from corner to corner to corner and right down to the very bottom extrusion or right along that. So I've got to get all these cuts perfectly aligned and right on. So I'm going to start drilling these holes. I hope they're all in the right place. Like I said, I've measured everything, but it's still scary every time. And sure, that's hole number 1. Let's hope that's right. Okay, so I've drilled my corner holes here. They mark out my corners. Those will create my lines for the rest of this. I've got a couple more. I'm going to make some rounded corners up here before I start doing my straight cuts down. I'm going to do those straight cuts down. That's going to create my straight lines. And I hope they're in the right place, but in the right place, everything checks out. I just took my extrusion here, my 2" by 2" extrusion, and I'm just go ahead and lay it in here to see what my 2" by 2" from hole to hole, and seeing that, yeah, it fits in here. It's got the gap that I wanted in there, so I know it looks good. I got a little bit of a safety margin, but a little bit of safety margin to make sure I'm not bunching stuff up. It should be a good compromise of good access into my available space here, and yet make sure I'm not overlapping my extrusions or anything like that, so I can all fit this in here very nicely. So I'm going to go back inside. I think I'm going to drill another hole down low here and down low here too, just to set the bottom of these lines for these long cuts. And then I'm going to create my rounded corners where I need those rounded corners to make sure I don't have any fracturing or anything that can happen to those corners. I'm spreading those stresses around. From these corners. It'll be encapsulated within the extrusions, and then I'm going to get out the big saw and we're going to start cutting these big lines here, cutting this big piece out of here. There we go. All right, where do I want to start? I think I'll start here. Nope, let's start over here.
And after drilling the holes on one side, it's now time to move over and drill the holes on the other side.
Alright, let's do this! Let's hope it's alright! Please! Please, baby, please! Be alright! Be alright, be right on the money. Be alright. Oh, let's get the right way. Let's go to drill speed. That'd be it. Oh God, I'm scared. Gotta do it. Let's do it. Here we go. Corner to corner, orange to orange. Right there. Oh God, that's about as good as it's gonna get right there. Okay, here we go. Alright, let's hope you're right, baby. Gotta make sure she's straight. Okay, 2 corners. Let's keep her going.
And after getting all these holes drilled, it's time for a little celebration.
Well, let's hope that's in exactly the right spot. Some dust on you there, buddy. Let's hope they're all in exactly the right spot, all of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Insides, 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 all along these lines.
Here we go. Gonna cut these 2 big garage door openings.